Okay, Mr. Lachwitz, thank you for being ready to have this interview for our ProFarm project. You know that we have three issues to discuss. The first one is the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and this access is seen as the route to freedom for discrimination for persons with disabilities. And in this realm, I have several questions to you. The first question is, how far can importance of the CRPD, this UN convention, strengthen the self-determination of people with disabilities, especially in the field of professional empowerment?
Well, the CRPD is the international attempt to give persons with disabilities a voice in society,
Yeah.
and not to see them any longer as persons with deficits, but as persons with equal rights. And one of these rights is the right of employment. It's Article 27 of the Convention. And proper reading of this and interpreting of this article shows that the aim of the convention is to give a person with disabilities a chance to work at the open labor market, at an inclusive labor market, and to fulfill by this the right of self-determination in the labor market.
This is a big issue for the whole society, I think for all states, for all nations. Therefore, the question, what does this mean for the governmental social systems and welfare and care providers? Do you have ideas in this direction?
Well, it's a big challenge both for the governments and for the providers.
Yeah.
It means that once a country has ratified the convention, and nearly all European countries have ratified that, then they are really, they have the obligation to implement the convention.
Yeah.
And it means to adapt everything which is written in the convention and to adapt it into the national social systems. For Germany, for instance, it would mean they have to check whether all regulations, all norms with regard to employment are in line with Article 27. And for service providers, it means the same. They have to check whether they really try to transfer persons with disabilities to the open labor market. And we know that in many, many countries, there are still many, many persons with disabilities either unemployed or working in so-called sheltered workshops, which are not part of the open labor market.
Can you shortly give us an overview over this paragraph 27 you mentioned just now?
Well, it reads at the beginning, I just have it in front of me. States parties recognize the right of persons with disabilities to work on an equal basis with others. This includes the right to the opportunity to gain a living by work freely chosen or accepted in a labor market and work environment that is open, inclusive, and accessible. So you see, it's the right to choose, it's the right to have the same opportunities as other people, the so-called non-disabled people have, and the aim is an open, inclusive, and accessible labor market.
Thank you very much. And it is clear that this needs a big task, or this is a big task to improve professional empowerment, as we said before.
Yes.
My next question is, Are there special changes necessary in vocational education and training systems as far as you see?
Yes, I mean, that of course depends from the national structure.
Yeah.
So, which kind of professions you already have in your country as far as these aims are concerned. In Germany, we have quite a lot of different professions, but many of them are well in line with sheltered workshops requirements
Yeah.
and not in line with the aim to transfer at least parts of these people to the open labor market. So I would make use of the term job coach because internationally there are already many attempts of so-called supported employment into the open labor market. And for that, you need so-called job coaches, persons who assist the person with disabilities and who are able to find out what they need at the open labor market.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
I think, one of the aims.
Yeah. Maybe this function of a job coach can be a bridge to the case management which we look at in our project, because they have similar functions to support people to get a place in the first labor market. Okay.
Well, I think so, though I think the professions we already have um, may be changed a little bit, but I think basically all these people can manage to become a job coach.
Yeah. And this is one of the main targets of the project. And so my question is, if we look at this function, job coach, or as we call it in the project, case manager, uh, can do you see a necessity to implement such a function besides the existing ones, like we have, for example, in Germany, Heilerziehungspfleger, Fachkraft für Arbeits- und Berufsförderung, Social Service, Integration Service, and so on?
Well, I think you have two alternatives. You can, first of all, of course, try to have a special education, a special system for becoming a job coach.
Yeah.
This would mean to have, well, another kind of education, but of course, you can try, in addition to train the Heilerziehungspfleger and all these professions you have mentioned, to train
Yeah.
them to become job coaches. But then you need a new training program for them. So it does not come automatically.
Yeah.
And I think it's a challenge at least.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned the sheltered workshops. Perhaps we should talk a little bit, or you should explain a little bit what is this. Maybe it's a special German form of working with people with disabilities, and other nations like Italian don't really know what it is. Perhaps you can tell something about this.
Well, in Germany, we have about 1,000 sheltered workshops all over Germany. The official figure is much less, but they have branches. So if you take the branches into account altogether, it's nearly 1,000.
Yeah.
And there are about 300,000 persons with disabilities working in these workshops. Most of them are persons with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities. And the difference to the open labor market is that these are places which are equipped for persons with disabilities and who have a staff trained for persons with disabilities, but only for persons in separate places. So they don't work together with non-disabled people. They are just persons with disabilities working together. And the minimum number in Germany for sheltered workshops to really become supported officially by government money, etc., is 120 places for persons with disabilities.
Yeah.
But it does not exist only in Germany. it exists in many other parts of Europe too, but with other names and with other structures. So it's what I would summarize is the big majority, at least, of persons with intellectual disabilities and psychosocial disabilities in Europe don't work on the open labor market. They are either unemployed or they work in these sheltered workshops.
So could this be perhaps an idea to transfer the experiences which are made in sheltered workshops concerning working places to the normal labor market, into normal working places?
Yes, because there are good examples in not only in Germany, in other countries, to combine sheltered workshops with the open labor market. So I know workshops where, let's say, 30, 35 persons of these 120 persons don't work actually in the workshop, but besides the workshop. So in supermarkets, in the surrounding, they are part of the workshop still, and they have the assistance of the workshop, and they don't receive payment at the open labor market, but there are attempts to include them in the open labor market. And I think to find out which examples could really work, it's an interesting task.
In our ProFarm project, farms are in the target of our work, and so farms could be possible workplaces for people with disabilities, which are necessarily not real sheltered workshops. So this could be also a bridge, isn't it like this?
Yes, that's true. Gardening and farming in a village together with other farmers. Of course, it's a very good attempt to combine people, and we know that in particular persons with intellectual disability like farming and like gardening, all kind of this work. So I think this would really be a good start to try that, not only in Germany but in all parts of Europe.
So thank you for this part, Mr. Lachwitz. We go to the next one, the question of international classification of functioning, disability and health, ICF. This is a classification of the health components of functioning and disability. And my questions for this part are: is this ICF a concept of understanding disability?
Well, that's not easy to answer. What I would say is the ICF were developed before the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was negotiated and adopted by the United Nations. So the ICF are older. But in a way, they have influence on the convention, on the interpretation of the convention, because they don't only describe misfunctions and deficits, they stress that the environment of a person counts and not only the deficit. And this is in line with the convention, which I can read that to you, does not define officially disability, the term disability, but in the preamble, there's at least a hint what should be the aim in future. And it reads that disability results from the interaction between persons with impairments and attitudinal and environmental barriers. So there's always this interaction between your impairment and the barrier you are meeting. And I think the big difference between the convention and ICF is ICF still is based on the so-called medical model. It starts with a description of deficits, and the convention wants to get rid of this deficit model. It's the social model which is really the aim of the convention. So we have always to be very critical if we apply the ICF.
Yeah. So the convention is much more broader. So the next question I have is if the ICF classifications are still appropriate for creating person-centered assistance.
I would say yes, because as long as we don't have an official definition by the United Nations on the term disability, there's a lot of speculation going around.
Yeah.
And if researchers and scientists try to interpret the ICF in a way which considers the CRPD, I think we still have some good results.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Then we go to the next issue, the European Disability Action Plan 2010 to 2020. The overall aim is to empower people with disabilities so that they can enjoy their rights and participate fully in society. The European strategy, it identifies actions at EU level to supplement national measures. It also identifies the support needed for funding, research, awareness raising, statistics, and data collection. One of the main actions is the Commission will develop policies for inclusive and quality education and training within the framework of the Youth on the Move initiative. And my question is, how can the European strategy improve the empowerment of young people, the professional empowerment, especially with disabilities?
Well, I'm quite cautious to answer that question because it's a good paper. If you read the Disability Action Plan 2010 to 2020, you find a lot of different topics, but always in very general terms. So the main question always is who has the competence. So if you really want to implement this action plan, then all the national governments must accept that the European Union is entitled to deal, for instance, with educational questions, to deal with employment, to deal with equality, etc., etc. And usually, the competence is only given to the European Union if it regards the so-called internal market. The social field, the social employment, the social security systems are still national systems. So it's the so-called principle of subsidiarity which counts. So first of all, always the governments have the right to come to conclusions themselves. I would say the connection is to the CRPD